r/AskReddit. What moment made you realize that you are not a kid anymore? I told my niece she needed adult supervision to do something and she looked me like I was dumber than a block of cheese and asked why I couldn't watch her. You're not the sharpest cheddar in the fridge, huh? This happened to me. I told my nieces we had to wait for an adult to take us to the playground down the road. They replied, "Auntie, you're an adult, can't you just take us?" Oh fuck. Yeah, I guess I can. Let's go play on some swings. I was 22 at the time, working as a ski instructor who looks after kids a lot but just never really thought about it too hard because I always get to play games and muck around. When I was in the military, well, Coast Guard, someone asked a question and I was like, I bet the highest ranking person here would know the answer. Oh no. Was used to being the baby at my workplace and then one day I realized I had trained most of the people currently working here and I had second highest seniority. I once worked in a hellhole job with crazy turnover. We had 15 to 20 employees. After 3 months of being the new guy, I looked around and realized I was the third most senior person at the office aside from the owners. When some doctors or teachers are younger than me. The last time I was at the ER I slowly realized that all the medical personnel treating me were younger than me. When my actions started to change a lot people's life. If I don't do shopping today I cannot cook for my wife and she would not have any food to take in the other day and in the next day I will be working so no one will buy food. As an example. It's one thing if I only eat once a day. But the kids need 3 square meals and snacks, so mama does not get a depression day. Realized this when a Facebook friend of mine asked what depression meals people eat and I realized even if I don't eat, I have to have the energy to fix food for 3 kids. Parents pulling themselves together for kids really warms my heart. Makes me feel for my own parents. As a kid you believe your parents are these invincible people but in reality they have very real struggles and insecurities just like the rest of us. At work one day when I was 19, I heard a little girl ask her mom, "What's that man doing?" And I turned to look at what man she was talking about and what the man was doing, only to discover she was pointing at me. It was the same for me, also at that age. It was my first summer not living at home and I noticed a little girl giving me the look kids give grown-ups who they're watching. I was confused for a moment but then caught my reflection in a window, and didn't recognize myself for a moment. I definitely was the grown-up. My first year of teaching. When we told the kids to get an adult if there's an emergency and I realized I was the adult they would be getting. I feel you there. Sometimes it just hits me that I'm the adult in the room and I'm responsible for everything, it's such a weird feeling. Sort of like a, oh shit I'm the one in charge, who the hell was stupid enough for that feeling. At least that's what I get whenever I have to look after my siblings. I hate that feeling. I went abroad for a week for work when I was in my mid-20s, it was me and someone who was coming along as my helper. We had a few issues and I asked him to look into something, then realized it was my project and I was the one who knew about it and had to look into it. I also realized I was not paid enough for that shit. Having the "we have food at home" talk with myself. Absolutely. I realized it when my thought process went from, what do I feel like having for dinner? To, what do I have to eat before it spoils and I wind up wasting the money I spent on it. It's the spinach. You have to eat the bag of spinach you bought that you're definitely going to eat this time. Cut to a week later where you're tossing out the bag of spinach. Stuff 2 handfuls in your mouth every day. Breakfast and dinner. Done. Although yeah, I get it. For me it's bananas and apples. I feel this so much. When I know I need more greens but don't know what I want to eat I always look despairingly at the bag of spinach. I like it but it also makes me sad because it's not a donut, and grudgingly take out a fistful or 2 to mow down on just to get it over. I was really excited to buy a mop. From that moment on it all went downhill. I'm almost 40 now, bought a new vacuum late last year, I'm still semi-excited about using it every time I do, it just works so much better than my old one. I got a new vacuum and was really excited, so I told my roommate's mom who was visiting. Her response: "You need to get a hobby." In high school a friend of mine worked at a laser tag place. He got a bunch of us in for free one day. In the waiting room we had a friendly trash talking match with some 12-year-olds about the upcoming game. One of them came back with, "You're on. Kids versus adults." Note, we were all 18 at the time. I work as a retail worker, 18 tomorrow, and a lot of kids at my town recognize me as the man from the store. It really feels weird not knowing all of them, considering I knew everyone in town when I was their age. Yeah. I was probably 30 plus shooting hoops at the park when some kids joined us. It was all fun and games until one of them asked us, "What grade are you in?" We joke now that they said grave rather than grade. When I saw a forecast for snow and I was annoyed instead of happy. This is a great one. Kids see potential snow day and imagine all the fun a snowy day brings. Adults see shoveling it out of the driveway just so you can sit through a shitty drive to work. This happened to my wife one winter. We spent an hour trying to chisel her car out before I just drove her to work. It was the weekend, so I had the day off. We're happy we have a garage now. I used to be able to take days off work whenever I wanted, and now I find myself having to have the, "If you take that many days off you won't be able to pay your mortgage, so suck it up and go to work" speech with myself at least once a week. Lol. Edit. For clarification, I work as a nurse and we have our set schedules and between 3 to 6 weeks of vacation a year depending on where you work, your position, and seniority, etc. But I used to have multiple part-time jobs instead of a full-time. I took off many days for travel, etc. But now I am 21 and have a mortgage to think about, so I'm working full-time and can't take nearly as much vacation time off as I used to, and it sucks. When I realized I could never be fully relaxed because there's always some responsibility looming over me. I've always felt that way since I was a kid though. Usually it was either the fact that I hadn't cleaned my room, done all of my chores fully, or done all of my homework, but there was always something, and since I was 10 years old I don't think I've ever caught up on everything at any point in my life to have ever felt 100% relaxed. I was driving my sister around and I pointed out to her a building that used to be a Blockbuster where my dad would take us to when I was a kid. Then I was crying inside at the fact that I said, "when I was a kid." I've been saying, "when I was a kid," since I was like 15 lol. Realizing that nobody knows what the hell they are doing, everyone is just winging it. Asked a mate, one of the most well put together guys I know, if he had any adulting tips. Just came back with, "If you ever find out, please tell me." Tips for adulting from an actual adult. I'm 51. Go listen to The Sunscreen Song by Baz Luhrmann. Everything you need to know about being an adult. I used to print out the lyrics and give them to my kids' friends when they turned 16. I was 23, no high school diploma, and a security guard doing access control at an ice cream plant. I realized that if I didn't get out of there and do something, I would be 50 in a flash, and not seen or done anything worthwhile. My life would have peaked at 20 and the rest of my time amounting to little more than waiting to die. Ah mate, don't leave us hanging. Did you get out? Yes, thank you for asking. I spent the next 9 months trying to get in the Navy. I had to wait for the start of the fiscal year, as only 5% of recruitment can be non-high school grads, but I got in. I became an aviation electronics technician. A couple years later I got my GED. Over a 20-year career I did 3 overseas tours, served on 2 carriers, visited a score of countries, numerous detachments and deployments, and more. Now, almost 2 years since retirement, I do troubleshooting and repairs on airport surveillance radar. It's been a much more interesting trip, with more still to come. I look at a lot of the people that work where I work and wonder what in the hell they are thinking. They're making $10 an hour, no real chance of a raise ever, and no potential advancement, yet some of them have been there 20 years. Never stay at a job that you peaked at the day you got hired.